The tenets of democracy. Democracy is more than a form of government. It is a framework of principles and practices designed to give people a voice in how they are governed and to safeguard freedom through collective decision-making. While countries differ in how they apply democratic systems, the core tenets remain recognizable across cultures and eras. These tenets, popular sovereignty, political equality, rule of law, separation of powers, protection of rights, accountability, participation, pluralism, transparency, and deliberation, form the backbone of democratic life. Understanding them is essential for recognizing both the strengths and vulnerabilities of democratic societies. 1. Popular sovereignty. At the heart of democracy lies the principle of popular sovereignty. The authority of government derives from the people. Power is not granted by divine right, hereditary privilege, or brute force, but by the consent of citizens. This tenet flips the hierarchy of power. Leaders govern because the people allow it, not because leaders inherently deserve it. Popular sovereignty is exercised through elections, referendums, and public opinion. When governments forget this principle and begin ruling for themselves rather than for the people, democracy erodes. 2. Political equality. Democracy demands that all citizens have equal standing in political life. Each person's vote carries the same weight, and each voice deserves the chance to be heard. This principle undercuts systems of aristocracy, caste, or oligarchy, where a few dominate the many. Political equality also implies inclusion. No one should be shut out of participation because of race, gender, religion, wealth, or social status. Expanding suffrage throughout history, from the abolition of property requirements to women's suffrage and the civil rights movement, reflects democracy's continual struggle to realize this tenet fully. 3. Rule of law. A democratic system functions only if the law applies equally to all. Rule of law means no individual, no matter how powerful, is above legal accountability. It also means the state cannot act arbitrarily. Actions must be guided by established laws, not by whims of rulers. Courts, constitutions, and independent judiciaries guard this principle. Without rule of law, democracy collapses into authoritarianism, where leaders manipulate or ignore laws to maintain power. 4. Separation of powers. To prevent the concentration of authority, democracies divide government functions among branches. Typically, these are the legislative making laws, executive enforcing laws, and judicial interpreting laws. This separation creates a system of checks and balances. Each branch can restrain the others, ensuring no one group dominates. The idea traces back to thinkers like Montesquieu, who argued that liberty requires a structure where power checks power. Democracies that neglect this balance often find themselves vulnerable to executive overreach. 5. Protection of rights and freedoms. Democracy safeguards fundamental rights, freedom of speech, press, religion, assembly, and due process. These freedoms allow individuals to express themselves without fear of state repression, to gather in pursuit of common goals, and to hold government accountable. Rights and freedoms are not privileges handed down by rulers but guarantees inherent to democratic citizenship. Protecting them requires vigilance, especially when governments attempt to limit freedoms in the name of security or efficiency. A democracy without rights is democracy in name only. 6. Accountability. Elected officials are stewards, not masters. Accountability ensures they answer for their actions, whether through elections, investigations, or public scrutiny. In a healthy democracy, officials cannot hide misconduct or abuse behind secrecy or unchecked power. Mechanisms like free media, watchdog organizations, independent audits, and robust civil society all reinforce accountability. Without it, corruption festers and public trust erodes, leaving democracy hollow. 7. Participation. Democracy is not a spectator sport. Its vitality depends on citizens engaging actively, not only by voting but also by joining civic groups, attending public forums, debating policies, and organizing around issues. Participation nurtures a sense of ownership. It also keeps leaders grounded in the concerns of ordinary people. Low participation, by contrast, allows elites to dominate decisions and risks turning democracy into a shell controlled by a few. 8. Pluralism. Democracy thrives on diversity. Pluralism recognizes that societies contain multiple groups with competing interests and views. Instead of suppressing this diversity, democracy channels it into constructive competition. Political parties, Labor unions, advocacy organizations, and interest groups all express pluralism. The presence of multiple voices prevents monopoly of power and stimulates innovation in policymaking. However, pluralism requires respect. Disagreements cannot turn into violence or hatred, or else democracy risks fracturing. 9. Transparency. Openness is a safeguard against abuse. Citizens cannot make informed choices if governments hide information about policies, spending, or decision-making processes. Transparency means people have access to records, debates, budgets, and official actions. It makes it harder for corruption to take root and easier for citizens to evaluate their leaders. In the digital age, transparency also extends to online communication, data practices, and the ability to track how decisions are made behind the scenes. 10. Deliberation. Democracy is not just about counting votes, it is about reasoning together. Deliberation emphasizes thoughtful discussion, compromise, and the weighing of evidence. Ideally, citizens and representatives debate ideas openly, listen to opposing views, and adjust positions when persuaded. This principle distinguishes democracy from mere populism or mob rule. Deliberation values informed decision-making and acknowledges the complexity of governing diverse societies. When societies lose the ability to deliberate, polarization deepens, and democratic problem-solving suffers. The interdependence of tenets. These tenets do not exist in isolation. Political equality without rule of law is fragile. Popular sovereignty without accountability risks demagoguery. Transparency without participation is meaningless. The strength of democracy lies in the interdependence of these principles. Together, they build a system that respects human dignity, balances power, and empowers citizens to shape their collective future. Challenges in practice. Democracies today face challenges that test these tenets. Rising disinformation undermines deliberation and transparency. Economic inequality strains political equality by giving disproportionate influence to wealthy interests. Populist movements sometimes exploit popular sovereignty to weaken checks and balances. Authoritarian leaders often erode democracy gradually, attacking independent courts, silencing media, or suppressing participation. Recognizing these threats highlights why understanding and defending the tenets of democracy is not an abstract exercise, it is a practical necessity. Conclusion. Democracy is a living system, constantly tested by human ambition, conflict, and change. Its endurance depends not on slogans or ceremonies but on a deep respect for its core tenets: popular sovereignty, political equality, rule of law, separation of powers, protection of rights, accountability, participation, pluralism, transparency, and deliberation. These principles create a resilient framework that empowers citizens and limits rulers. They are not guaranteed, they must be practiced, defended, and renewed in every generation. In the end, democracy survives not because it is perfect, but because it commits to the idea that people, working together under fair rules, can govern themselves. Like this video, subscribe to the channel and click the notification button to know when we post another video on democracy.